Okay, so today we have another fun project which involves decorating your bee box. This is my Bees in Your Backyard reference guide. We have oil-based colored pencils. We have this razor tip energy station that's going to heat these three tips here that we're going to use on the project. Bees, wasps, and ants. Keep your references nearby. We're going to try to do a more realistic looking honeybee here on this end panel of one of the MannLake deep boxes. And of course, you got to have something hot to drink while you're going to do your project. You want to be all set up, everything at your fingertips. This is their medium grade box. These are the three tips here: sharp, the ball pen, and of course a shader. And as I just said before, MannLake offers three different grades of pine here, and this is the middle grade. So it's actually in pretty good shape. So we're going to see how well it takes the heat. This is the box that came. I ordered a bunch of these, so we're going to start putting stock together to replace some of the older boxes in my apiary. And I thought, while they're disassembled, this is going to be a great time to put them together. There's MannLake's information. This is going to be my third project. The second one here was Winnie the Pooh. He's, of course, on a piece of cedar panel here, which is on one of the Hive supers. And that was just kind of fun to do. And again, we added color with oil-based pencils. And this, of course, is my honeybee on honeycomb, also on a Hive. And that was my very first pyrography project there. Now what I'm going to go with here is I have this book, Bees in Your Backyard. That honeybee, bottom row there, dead center, is what I'm going to do. So I've done a quick workup outlining it a little bit here. This is about 11-inch long bee here. And we're going to go in, sketch it in detail. Last time we did kind of a lame attempt at doing a honeybee, so this time I felt like I really needed to do something more realistic. So just keep your reference image nearby and refer to it often. I'm starting off with this ball pen, and I think I like the way it's working better than burning on cedar. The cedar was really soft, and the pen did sink in quite a bit. So when you look at the growth lines, growth rings that are sticking out here, the light areas, you'll notice that the pen goes right into pretty easy. And then when we hit the growth ring there, look how it just kind of skips over it. So if you want to darken the growth rings, you're going to have to pause a little bit and let that thing heat up. You can darken them. Still, I'm going to say that this pine is a little better to work on so far than the cedar that the Hive boxes are made out of. And I have not tried the hoop pine yet that comes from the Hive people. So of course I go to what's going to be probably the darkest part of this, and that's the bee's eye. This is a worker bee, by the way. If you don't know the difference, of course, if this were, let's say it's a drone, these eyes would be huge and they would come together at the top of the head here. This is a worker. You can tell it's not the queen. The queen would have a nice long abdomen, and other than that, look pretty similar. So we're just going to work here. This entire video is about 13 minutes long, so if you're in a hurry, you're probably not going to appreciate it too much. One of the things I kind of like that's happening here, though, is see how the wood grain is going through the eye? That's actually kind of interesting. So, by the way, if you're doing this for your first time, and as I mentioned, this is my third wood burning project, you really can't mess it up. Bees have no idea what they're looking at. This has a practical function, and that is when honeybees get closer to their beehive, particularly if you have a lot of beehives in a row that look very similar in physical configuration, by putting high contrast shapes and stuff on the front of your beehive, it will help the foragers come back and find their specific colony faster. There have been cases where foraging bees have been coming back with pollen and resources and landed on the wrong landing board. And when they have a lot of resources with them, they're not going to get repelled by the guard bees. They're going to be welcomed in. So that's sometimes referred to as bee drift, when bees go from the center hives to the outboard hives, those at either end of your apiary row. And of course, if a bee lands and it does not have a lot of resources, it would be immediately repelled if it was at the wrong colony. But kind of like people, they open their doors and welcome those that are coming with a lot of resources. So now I'm going to shift nibs here. I'm going to go to this. This is more of a blade, and it's for, in this case, doing the hairs on the bee's body. And you can do a lot of long, thin lines. Again, if you move it along quickly, see the smoke that's coming off here? If you keep it light and move fast, you'll have nice fine lines. Bees have hairs all over their body, and even the eyes. So this is just a kind of a methodical thing. And notice that I'm angling the pen away from the center. And the hairs here near the eye will be shorter. And of course, as you get near the extremities, as we're looking at the side of this worker bee's head, you want to have the hairs getting longer. If you look at the top of her head, I've seen some pretty gnarly hairdos on some worker bees, especially when they first hatch out. You'll see some very light colored, kind of fluffy cattywampus hairdos there. And so it's kind of fun to do this with burning. And what am I going to say? The bees' hairs, you can't mess this up. You know, I mean, even if it's a bad wood burning project, it's still going to serve its function to help the bees identify the physical traits of some marking, which is just above their landing board. And this is a deep box, so this will be a brood box on the bottom. This will sit right on the landing board, and we'll put these in the apiary this spring as we swap out and pull out the older boxes. And of course, we'll make a video of that, because some people have been asking about how to set up a hive in the beginning. So we'll do some splits and we'll swap out some equipment. And you just want to keep building, and of course the hairs should go out and away from the center here. We're working on the thorax. This is where the muscles are. This is the part of the bee that generates heat. This is, of course, the muscles up there where the wings attach. Sometimes you'll see bees just shivering and vibrating their wings without flapping the wings. And they're just burning calories so they can generate heat. And honeybees have to be able to do that. And of course, they're going to use carbohydrate, sugar resources to do that. And I also wanted to, darken the legs in here on this one. And there's some hairs coming off the legs. Every part of a bee, if you look at them really closely, you'll see that there are tiny hairs except on the wings themselves. So if you have the patience, you can really just take your time and keep adding hairs and darken some areas and leave some other areas light. Now, in my first project, if you watch the video, I just did the wood burning and etched out the bee, and then that was kind of the end of it, and we had honeycomb behind it. In this one, I also picked up some oil-based colored pencils, and I'm going to add some color to this also at the end there. Now we're looking at the abdomen here, and that's what we're putting the hairs on. And generally, you want to make the abdomen look kind of cylindrical, so you'll run the hairs closer together as they go down underneath, and of course as they round over towards the top, and then you'll spread them out as you work towards the center. And by keeping those directions in line and how far and how close they're spaced, you'll give the illusion, of course, that this bee's abdomen has the right shape. The other thing is, a lot of people don't realize that when you're looking at a bee and its abdomen is pulsing in and out, they respirate, they breathe through their abdomen, they don't breathe through their mouth. So that's pretty much, I think that's enough hair, and I think the wings look okay. We're going to swap this out, and we're going to put on now a shading tool. This thing pulls a little bit more electricity, and the dial on that razor tip heat system there is now up around a 6. They have to be careful here. This is a judgment call. I'm kind of doing a drop shadow around the bee. You have a chance to really mess up what you're doing. because we are burning wood, so whatever you do to it is going to stay there. And we've been having some discussions about how to put a finish on these when they're done. Of course, this one now is pine. It's going to have something on it. So I'm thinking maybe an exterior grade clear varnish of some kind. But again, we'll show that. You have to work very carefully here and kind of think about where the light's going to hit the ground here underneath this bee. And hopefully it's compatible with the way the light strikes the legs and the eye and the way I've done the highlights here. And again, my resource is the honeybee there on the cover of that book. I'll be putting links in the video description of everything you see here, including the tips and this pyrography kit that I'm using, as well as I guess I might as well put in the MannLake link too for these hive bodies. They're really nice. They're nice and thick. They're well done. And I'm using the shader here, of course, to add even more kind of contours to the abdomen of this bee. And I'll also link the books that I've put out here. Now I think this is kind of done. You know, you really don't want to overwork it. And because I'm going to add some color here, we're going to use these polycolored pencils. As I mentioned, they are oil-based. And this is a 36-piece kit. Lira, Germany, I guess. Anyway, they're really nice. The pigment is nice and dense, so they'll go on pretty quick. I'm going to demonstrate that kind of fast here. I bought everything off of Amazon, and of course not the MannLake boxes. I ordered them from their website, but if they sell on Amazon, I guess I'll probably put a link there for that. So, and then notice here I started with a really highlight yellow, kind of a pale yellow, and now I've come in with a more of an ochre. And I want some variation in the orange shades here, and getting the kits that have more colors in them give you more options and will give a greater illusion of kind of reality here, although I don't think I have any worker bees that have these colors. But again, we're just trying to make something dramatic that's going to stand out on the front of a brood box here out in the apiary. Right now, it's raining outside and we've got a snowstorm coming in, if you can believe that. So here it is all finished. I'm just touching up some highlights here with the white. There's also a blender that seems to work out pretty well. I kind of did some blending with that neutral pencil underneath the bee and get some of this worked in. So the more contrast, the better. Now the bee is not going to look at this and think, wow, that's a giant bee on there. They're just going to see it as lights and darks and possibly some color, and that helps them distinguish their box from other boxes. And aside from that, it's kind of cool to have in the apiary. And because it's burned into the box, if someone took your bee box and repainted it a different color, this bee image is still going to come through. So that's it. Don't forget to sign your work. Fred Dunn 2018. Of course, you would sign your name, not mine. I appreciate that you watched this. I hope you got something out of it. And decorate your bee boxes. Burn them. So thanks for watching, and I may or may not do another one like this. I hope your bees come out of winter great.